Chapter 163. Really? Tolanica asks with surprise. You're full. I am so terribly sorry, princesses, the restaurant's greeter says, meaning every word of it. I believe the recent play is to blame for the abnormally high traffic. Oh, that makes sense, Tala mutters. All the queens must have gotten the same idea we had. Well, shoot. We can just come back later, I point out. If it would please you, princesses, one of the men behind us stutters. We would be honored to give you our seats, if eating on the lower floor is acceptable to you. I turn around to face the happy-looking pair behind me, both men clearly overjoyed to have an opportunity to help us. Which is kind of scary, considering what I remember about how things work here. Bafflingly, money is not a thing here in Liriope. As an Athanatos, I can more or less go anywhere and get any service I want for free. But what's really wild is that the men can do that too. Any and all of them. The only real difference is that, due to how many men there are, they have to schedule in advance with the busier places like the restaurant Tala is taking me to eat. Likely months in advance, at least. The two of them have their arms linked together, standing with an intimate closeness that signifies they're a couple. They planned this date a long time ago, yet the idea of using that reservation to help us, who can probably just come back the moment the next queen finishes their meal and get right in, makes them happier than actually getting to eat at this fancy restaurant does. My sister glances at me, silently asking how I want to proceed. I start to shake my head, remember that's not a thing with Athanatos, and signal a negative with my eyes instead. Tala turns to them both and grabs one of each of their hands in a thankful gesture, and I worm ever so slightly out of my soul tunnel so I can catch the feeling of the utter, radiant joy which fills them at the touch. It's not just something they're projecting. It's real. I slither back into my hiding place, lost in my own thoughts. Thank you so much for the offer, Tala says happily. Your kindness and loyalty does you credit. However, it would bring my sister and I the most joy to wait for a seat on the upper floors. Please have a lovely time here, and enjoy the food. Yes, princess. One of the men barks while the other says thank you, princess. My eyes adjust into the Athanatos equivalent of a grin, Tolanica and I departing for now. The grin quickly falls. Is this what I want my society to look like? Just with undead instead of bug men? I don't know if I ever really thought much about it. I don't know if this is right or wrong. The questions bubble in the back of my mind and I don't know what to do about them. I probably shouldn't be doing anything about them, because I need to figure out how to stop a war without getting killed by a cabal of super-powerful immortal mages. Once again, I peek slightly out of my Manta tunnel to taste the power in the air. It chills me to my core. I can feel the progenitor with my soul sense, of course. She's rather hard to miss, being the single most obscenely powerful soul I've ever felt before, bar the Mist Watcher itself I guess. Her soul is an impossibly beautiful layered maze, artistic, functional, mighty, and cold. So cold. Her spirit is nearly the size of a small room, and I can't even imagine what sort of absurd power she wields. I know with certainty that if the progenitor moves against me, against anyone, she will win. I suspect she could obliterate an entire island, if she was truly motivated to. Suffice to say, being discovered by her isn't likely to go well for me. My only saving grace here is that she rarely seems to do anything, nowadays. Her age makes her apathetic, and while I have memories of her looking kindly upon me like a grumpy old grandmother, that only makes the kind of fundamental change I've made to Melrosa's soul all the less forgivable. Just thinking about her fills me with unparalleled fear. I slink back into my Manta tunnel, shivering as I hide from the chill. Mal, Tala says, causing me to jolt slightly as she unexpectedly puts a hand on my arm. You okay? Ah. Shit. I'm shaking physically as well. I'm hugging myself with my arms, hands gripping deep into the Dragonskill armor. My stress is obvious. Stupid of me. I should have better self-control than this. I'm not used to emoting without thinking about it. Let's take a walk while we wait, I suggest. Sure, she agrees. Where to? The center district, I suggest. The men's district. The part of the city for the lowest class. It's funny. Liriope and Skyhope are both mostly circular cities, and they both have obvious social stratification based on distance from the center, but they're totally reversed. Here, the lowest class is in the center, while the highest class resides in the outer few rings. I mean, I guess the center of Skyhope has been a giant hole in the island for over 2 years now, but I was only in Skyhope for maybe a month of that? Less? Anyway, I want to see it. I need to see it. Show me the dregs and the outcasts. Show me the orphans and the diseased. Show me those with nothing, barely surviving the day-to-day. That's what I need to know to decide what kind of city this is. Who here has it the worst? What's their life like? Sure, I guess, Talanica agrees. If you want to. So we walk there together, and it feels wrong. Not because of the suffering, but because of the absence of it. Just like the rest of Liriope, it's beautiful here. It's lush and green. The homes are clean and well maintained. They are, of course, much less fancy than the part of the city where the queens live. The homes each hold many men who share a common space, far more compact than the ridiculous opulence of the queens. But they have homes. Many men wander the streets, usually in pairs or groups, but it's obvious that none of them live on the streets. Once again, I take the risk of peeking out of my manta tunnel to stretch out my senses, searching for the emotion that, for my entire life, has always hung in the background of any city, hunger. But it isn't there. Sure, some people are hungry because they simply haven't eaten, but no one is truly hungry. No one's stomach gnaws at them from the inside, weakens them and wastes them away because the only energy their body has to keep going is their own blood, muscle, and sinew. No one scrambles for discarded crumbs. No one bleeds out in the street after losing a fight for a slice of bread. No one. Not in my entire sensory radius. If I could cry, I would. Hey, Mal. Talanica says hesitantly. Is it okay if I ask what's on your mind? I turn to my sister. My family. The girl who tried to kill Lark and Penelope. The girl who so happily helped me hunt the savages. The girl who loves a Molrosa that no longer exists. Just give me a moment to figure out what that is, I answer. She gives a light half laugh and waits politely as we wander around the city. This feels so impossible. It's still not what I came here to find, though. Who is the most miserable person in my radius? That's who I want to meet. I am a queen, I eventually say. I have been a queen my entire life. Well, technically not until you're 100 years old, but yeah, Tala agrees amicably. What of it? There are a lot of different kinds of queens, I continue. I never really thought about what kind I wanted to be. How I wanted to rule. I mean, I guess I didn't want to rule. Not really. I just wanted to be safe and happy. Nothing wrong with that, Tala remarks. Everyone wants to be safe and happy. Yeah, I agree. Everyone does. And everyone here is. It's incredible. The progenitor had a plan, Tala says. She enacted it. And now we all get to reap the benefits. I definitely have to agree, life is pretty good. Yeah. Before the progenitor, there were no Thanatos. Queens were as mortal as their offspring. She changed that, and many more things besides. She forged our people's bodies anew, into something greater. She created a society where some live forever, ruling happily above, and others die young, working happily below. That is what she thought was right, because that is what her people, to some extent, already were. Now we are just perfected. This is what Penelope wants to be, I realize. The progenitor of the humans. But she will make no distinction between male or female, worker or queen. She will raise them all to be Thanatos, give them all an eternity without decreed purpose. For better or worse, they will be free. Will her society of immortals collapse as the workers try to be queens and the queens are betrayed by their servants? Or will she find a way to give everyone a place without quashing the human instinct to seek above one's station? Either way, I can see her goal more clearly now than ever before, and it's beautiful. I should try to be a part of it. What kind of queen do you want to be, Tala? I ask her. I don't know, she answers easily. I never thought about it either. Does it really matter? Most of the actual rulership is done by the progenitor. We're all given our own little knowledge bases and areas of expertise. We make the men who actually do those things, and then our time is mostly spent on hobbies and stuff. I'm not really worried about being a queen as much as I'm worried about getting bored. Great-great-grandma is a little, off, you know? A little, yeah, I agree. What about other islands? Do you ever want to visit them? There's so many I doubt we'd ever get bored traveling between them. Tala laughs. What, you almost died the first time you step out of Liriope, and you already want to go back? I hunch my shoulders a bit. Yeah. Of course. I almost died. Tala doesn't pick up on a human body language, though. I didn't mean to fight, I clarify. Just to hang out and explore. Oh, that makes more sense, Tala muses. Well, we could go visit the colony on the Terra Basin? We'll pass close enough to teleport in a 10-day or so. I look at her with a mix of confusion and surprise. Oh, do you not remember? Tala asks hesitantly. No worries. The Terra Basin is where we get most of our water. Queen Delacana manages it. The whole island has been cleared of savages and dangerous animal life, so it should be totally safe. Huh. The end product of what Iveric wants to turn Verdant up into. Could be useful to see. Sure, I say. I'd like that, if that's okay. Of course it's okay, you can do whatever you want, Tala chuckles. But if that was your way of inviting me along, sure. I feel like it'll probably be boring, but I guess I can keep you company. Thanks, Tala, I say. No problem. We're sisters, right? I swallow. Don't ask me a painful question like that. What if we're not? I ask hesitantly. Huh? What if I'm not Morosa? I ask. Or, not the same Morosa. She chuckles. What are you saying, you dork? Of course you're the same Morosa. I stare at her seriously. That's not what I asked. I feel her emotions play out one after the other. Confusion, at first. Understanding. Worry. She only thinks I've lost memories, not that I've taken an entirely different identity inside me. And as much as I want to tell her, it would be foolish to do so here. No, I just want to know. I need to know. What makes us sisters, really? Do you still love me? Talanika asks. Yes, I answer honestly. Of course I do. Then we're sisters in every way that matters, Tala insists. As long as you remember that, it's enough for me. Damn it. I start shaking again. I wish this body could cry. You promise? I press. I promise, Tala confirms. No matter what. My breath catches in my valves. You. What did I ever do to deserve you? Oh, Tala says, pulling me into a hug. You didn't have to do anything, silly. You just lucked out. I don't believe that, I choke. I am not a lucky person. Then I'm the natural balance of the universe paying you back for all your shit luck. Tala preens. I'm simply worth every bad thing that has ever or will ever happen to you. Dang, I'm good. My choking approximation of sobs turn into laughter. Tala, a bit confused, surreptitiously pats my sides during the hug to try and make sure nothing is caught in my airways. I guess you were acting pretty strange, Tala admits. Younger. I have to admit, it's weird suddenly being the big sister. It's weird suddenly having one, I admit. I've never had a big sister before. Then I guess I'm guaranteed to be your favorite, aren't I? Tala jokes. It'll be okay, Mal. We'll get through this. And I'll only laugh at you a little bit when I become a queen first. But I am a queen. I have sovereign subjects. They are just down on an island my people are trying to slaughter. As is the rest of my family, living and dead. But I have time. There won't be another Iveric night for months. I will figure something out. So, do you want to head back? Tolanica asks as I get my shaking body under control. There's probably space for us by now. Oh, I say. No. We're not there yet. Wait, were we going somewhere in particular? Tala asks. Yeah, I confirm. Follow me. We pad through the streets, no part of them looking any less pristine than any other. Even as we approach the source of the misery I feel, there is no outward sign of it. Instead, we wander through the streets to a minor business district that caters to men more than women. A small stall sits utterly devoid of traffic, the walls lined with paintings. A single, grumpy worker. No, a soldier? A soldier sits before a canvas, his strong arms holding a brush rather than a weapon. He looks up when we get close, and the sight of two Thanatos approaching his shop fills him with a bubbling cocktail mix of awe, gratitude, fear, suspicion, and bitterness. Interesting. Welcome, the man says guardedly. What could 200 Thanatos want with me? I'm wondering the same thing myself, Tala admits. Melrosa? I glance around at the paintings on offer, curious as to their contents. I find them difficult to understand. Most of them seem to feature figures that seem similarly shaped to people, but are sparsely detailed and outlined in a thin coating of black. The surreal, unrealistic quality to it all wars with my already limited ability to pick up on visual cues, even counting how much being Melrosa has improved that. Does this make sense to you? I ask Tala, pointing at one of the paintings. Yes? She confirms. Why wouldn't it? I hesitate only for a moment, but she is my sister. It's okay to show weakness. Could you explain them to me? She does, using a clawed finger to point out the way the art style simplifies life into a caricature, focusing on exaggerations and emotions over realism. It all clicks when she makes the comparison to stylized automations, particularly the small ones with warped proportions I frequently take apart and put back together. Most of the pictures seem to depict men in various states of disrepair, while the others depict the battles which injured them. It's all very grim, and the better I get at interpreting them the more I like them. The expressions are well done, Tala admits as she finishes up her explanations. But the style itself is so amateurish it distracts from that. It's like the scrawling of someone completely untaught. I am untaught, the soldier painting them grunts irritably. Tala seems displeased to hear that. What is your name? She asks in that imperious manner I know is also an order. To scour the land of savages, the soldier answers. Ah, Tala says with a clipped tone. I see. So you were born to be a soldier, I note happily. These paintings are based on your experiences in combat, then. Where did you fight? The soldier hesitates at my question, but not answering isn't really on the table for him. Even as one who rebels against his purpose, obedience is too ingrained in what he is. Just like my revenants. I have returned recently from my prior station at the Broken Web. The front at the Broken Web was never recalled, Tala notes. What caused you to deny your duty and station? Grief, the man answers simply. Makes sense to me, I say nonchalantly, though Tala clearly disapproves. Looking between the various paintings, I find a truly chaotic one that portrays a bloody battle between soldiers and a group of strange, four-tentacled orb-like creatures that I've never seen before. They seem to be intelligent, though, since they're drawn with armor and weapons. Both sides have victims of slaughter, people that are currently dying or dead. Blood and offal scatters the area. It is gruesome, brutal, and painfully raw. I like this one, I declare. May I have it? Toscaur is surprised for some reason. These are on display because he's offering them, aren't they? I assume this isn't just a gallery area, since he works here. You want a painting, he says with apparent disbelief. That is what I said. Yes, I confirm. Nothing else? I mean, I suppose I might come back to see your new paintings from time to time. In case there are any more that I like. What do you intend to do with this painting? He asks flatly. Hang it up somewhere and look at it? What else would I do with a painting? The man stares at me. I stare back. I am honored, he eventually says, and he means it. So I can have it, then. Of course, oh great Thanatos. I am pleased you find worth in me. So I nod, collect my new painting, and just walk off with it. Ha! This is so weird. I own things, and I can choose to own more things whenever I want. I feel like I'm stealing something, except that I'm not stealing something. This is just how their society works. I mean, our society. This is how our society works. My society. Well, it was strange, Tala mutters. Nice of you to do that for the lost one, I guess, but are you sure you're okay, Mal? Of course I'm not okay, I answer giddily. I probably won't be okay for a long time, things are really messed up right now. But I'm not just being nice, I like the painting. Well, that's just extra weird, Tala declares. I thought you couldn't even figure out what was what. Not at first, no, I agree. But I just needed a little nudge, that's all. Thanks for explaining everything. I should ask people to explain things more often. No problem, sis, Tala says. I guess there's no accounting for taste. And speaking of taste, you finally ready to go eat? Absolutely. I confirm, practically shaking with excitement. I can't believe it. There's no poverty. There's no hunger. Even with Tala, and I assume most of the Thanatos, immediately reacting with disdain towards the lost one, he still lives a better life than anyone on the street back home. This place is insane. But in a great way. It's not perfect, sure. I mean, it's perfect for everyone here, but most people aren't here, and the soldiers still suffer in horrific wars that the Thanatos order, and of course their victims suffer in those wars, and also there's a ton of animancy going into making sure everyone is happy, but I honestly can't say that isn't worth it. I can't. I lived too long in poverty to claim I'd rather be hungry and free. Alright you dork, but we're getting one of the men to take your weird new art back to your house. I'm not letting you lug it around all day. Even if it makes you weirdly giggly. I'm not weirdly giggly, I giggle. You're even happier than the time Queen Falrinta lent you her clockwork craftsman for a month, Tala protests. If you weren't armored up to the nines I'd be forced to tickle you into submission. W.H. Tala. We're in the middle of the street. It would be undignified. You don't look like you're terribly worried about your dignity right now, sister. I chuckle at that. She laughs and responds, and soon the both of us are howling with joy for no real reason in particular. Once our riotous display quiets down, Tala snaps her fingers twice and the quickest, most eager man runs up and happily volunteers to take my new painting home. Then we enter the fancy restaurant, get ourselves a seat, and are immediately asked for our order. Which flummoxes me, because I have absolutely no idea what to answer. I didn't think this was how restaurants worked. I mean, I don't know much about restaurants, but don't they normally have like menus or something? Oh progenitor, I bet there's no menu because I can order whatever I want. Or because I'm expected to have it memorized. Fuck. Pick for me, I whisper at Tala. She does so, ordering on my behalf. As the waiter departs, Tala gives me a concerned look. Do you not remember your own favorite food? She hisses. Do I have a favorite food? I hesitantly ask back. She looks me up and down. Are things worse than you've been letting on? She whispers. Maybe a little. Our conversation is interrupted before she can respond, however, by a uniformed soldier. Which is particularly notable because most men don't wear anything at all. This one is unmistakable, though. He is part of the progenitor's guard. Princess Molrosa, he intones. The Great Mother requests your attendance at your earliest convenience. And then he departs, my mouth going dry with fear. That's another name for her. The progenitor. Is she onto me already? This is way too soon. I barely have myself figured out, let alone my plan for the progenitor. What should I do? Attend her, or run? Just a little, huh? Tala hisses at me. Just a little. I love you, Tala, I say simply, standing up. It was nice getting to know you. What does that mean? She yelps. Mal mal. Hey. I don't answer, though. Retreating deep into my mind, a tunnel out of fear and shame, I walk swiftly out of the restaurant, glancing up at the imposing castle where the progenitor lives. On one hand, there's a high chance she knows nothing about me. There are plenty of reasons she might wish to see Melrosa right now. Running when it isn't necessary would be the kind of suspicious action that gets me investigated where I might otherwise be perfectly safe. On the other hand, she is one of the few people in the world who could probably kill not just my body, but my soul with contemptuous ease. Simply being near her puts me at serious risk. She is death itself. So do I face death, or flee it? Face it or flee it? It wouldn't be enough to flee the meeting. I'd likely have to flee the island. I don't want to do that. Besides, what kind of queen of death would I be to run from my own? To the palace it is, then. Even if I'm not totally prepared, well, I'm far from helpless. I may have died recently, but this death only made me stronger. Now I am a queen in soul and body, and I have plenty of tricks up my dragon-scaled sleeves. It's time to meet the oldest immortal I know, the most powerful soul I've ever felt, bar God itself. I'll try not to fantasize too much about eating her. Chapter 164. Once again, I find myself walking the halls of the progenitor's mansion, staring at the ceiling and trying to piece together the image despite the many memories I've lost. Destroying Melrosa's memory core didn't just remove most of the memories from her previous bodies, but it also means that the memories of my current body, while far clearer and more detailed than any memories I've ever had as a human, aren't quite flawless. Even if I manage to walk through every room and hallway in the massive building, I might not be able to piece together a perfect picture. I feel a profound sense of loss at that, despite how trivial this little ceiling game is. I might be walking to my death right now. I have more important things to be thinking about than an impossibly expensive mosaic of jewels. Such as the fact that the progenitor's soul is the size of an entire fucking room. I'll have to step inside that radius to see her, probably, and if she opts to channel any mana while I'm there, the pain will be unimaginable. It's been a long time since I've had to deal with that issue, since only Guldra was strong enough for me to worry about that back on Verdantop, so for it to come back into play now is a little jarring. Hopefully I'll be immune to the effect while hiding in my tunnel, because I doubt I'm getting through this meeting without at least a little magic being used. I, after all, need to have a teleportation spell prepared. Just in case. I think I'll need to peek out of my tunnel to actually use it, but that will barely take a second. Hopefully I won't have to, of course. One of the progenitor's personal guards escorts me to her chambers, which all things considered is not a reason to be alarmed. If I was surrounded by guards, that'd mean something was up. Just one guard is totally normal, at least insofar as a personal summons by the progenitor can be called normal at all. The creator of our species is not a particularly social woman. Like her soul, she's cold and orderly, not devoid of love and compassion, but certainly disinclined to show much of it. Despite her impossible accomplishments, despite how she's created a utopian society of happy citizens, she herself seems perpetually bitter. At least, that's the impression I get from my sparse memories of her, my brief glance at her massive soul, and what I've heard from those who know her better. The progenitor is not someone to mess with. And if things go poorly, this won't be the first time she's executed a queen. The audience hall is before you, princess, the guard informs me as he brings me to an enormous set of double doors. It is here you will speak with the progenitor. Are you not coming in? I ask hesitantly. Doesn't her guard normally accompany her? I am not, he says simply. You will speak with the Great Mother alone. Okay, that's probably bad. Outwardly, though, I just signal assent and understanding with my eyes before pushing the double doors open and making my way inside. The audience hall is absolutely massive, built like a cathedral to a god. Even though I'm walking into the same room as the most dangerous person I've ever met, I can't help but have my attention stolen by the architecture. The massive ceiling rests hundreds of feet above me, the centerpiece to the work of art encompassing the entire building. It depicts the many horrifying eyes of the Mist Watcher, surrounded not by the roiling yellow of the mists themselves but instead a brilliant series of white dots set in a background of black, a fantastical vista unlike anything I've ever seen before. The mosaic is hardly the end of the room's majesty, of course. The ceiling is held up by massive columns of pure crystal, giant gemstones of red, purple and blue larger than most trees. They flank either side of the exquisitely crafted workway, leading the eye inevitably towards the throne at the far end of the room, in which the Queen of Queens imperiously rests. Then I finally look at her face to face and have to choke down a laugh. She's so tiny. Ha ha, what? The progenitor is an itty-bitty baby Thanatos. She's so fucking cute and fuzzy. She barely comes up to my waist. Ah. No, Bad Vita. Why are you acting like this? Queens look like this all the time. It's a natural part of the rebirth process. The progenitor is just in a new body. She'll be up to normal size in less than a year. It's not cute. Gah, except it totally is cute. Curse my human instincts. Small things are cute, that's just how it goes. Except that's dumb and in this particular case incredibly dangerous. I'm like a personal living example of how deadly small things can be. This is a horrible time to be laughing. The progenitor lounges with a bored posture, one elbow on the arm of her mighty seat so she can rest her head in her palm. Despite her tiny size, the old monster's eyes glower with frigid weight, brooking no disobedience. I still my amused twitching as best I can, approach the throne, and kneel in front of it how I know I'm supposed to. You asked to see me, oh great mother. I prompt hesitantly. I did indeed, Princess Molrosa, the progenitor intones, and I very stoically do not laugh at her squeaky, high-pitched voice. It has come to my attention that Vinatila's and Agartilka's investigations into your soul may have been lacking in rigor, after your recent accident. Fuck. Okay, stay calm. What do you mean, great mother? The progenitor hums, her multifaceted eyes maintaining a completely unreadable expression. A curious answer. Asking a question is not technically a lie, but it nonetheless implies a degree of ignorance we both know does not exist. I suggest you discard any notions of your own cleverness, child. If you are under the impression that you will be allowed secrets in this chamber, that there is any chance you will be walking out of here without telling me everything I want to know, I suggest you discard them. I do not have the time or patience for conversational games. She lets her eyes narrow at that, a purposeful reveal of her thinly veiled fury. She has nothing less than perfect control over her own expression, which means the glimpse of her anger can't be anything but a clear and undisguised threat. Ask me anything, my progenitor, and I will answer to the best of my ability. The ancient child on the throne before me sighs, sitting up slightly. You spoke the name Nora to the clear one known as Vigor, the progenitor intones. You then claimed you learned the name in a book. This is impossible, because no such book exists in Liriope. You will explain this discrepancy to my satisfaction. Oh. This is not what I expected, actually. I guess she didn't see me after all. Except. Wait. How am I going to explain how I know Nora without giving myself away? Well I lied to Vigor, I say simply. The progenitor doesn't respond. She just waits. I learned the name from from the savages of the plentiful wood. I do not know how they knew of the name, but it seems to be what they call the clear ones. The progenitor continues to stare at me. I swallow nervously, saying nothing. That's all completely true. I don't want to give too much information, so I just have to hope I can satisfy her with a partial answer. I feel the mana move the moment I notice her hands twitch, and by then it's too late. An unseen force clamps around my neck and lifts me into the sky, my hands and fingers bound and twisted painfully behind my back. I could deconstruct the absurdity of your words, the progenitor says flatly, slowly emerging from her throne to stand imperiously with all 3 feet of her height, but that would imply that this is in some way a conversation, one in which you are entitled to some maneuvering, some back and forth with which you might worm your way away from the truth. This would be a waste of my time and yours, so allow me to be perfectly clear. You will tell me everything, or you will suffer as I extract the knowledge raw from your soul. Do you serve the first lich, child? The first lich. I don't have time to think, I need to say something. No. I answer firmly. Have you spoken with her? I hesitate for only a moment, and the chitin on my neck cracks as the progenitor's grip tightens. You're wise to be afraid, child, the progenitor hisses. But you'd best be sure you fear lying more than you fear the truth. I admit. I've spoken with her. When? Earlier today, I tell her. Did she ask anything of you? My instinct is to say not really, because she didn't make any major requests, but I stopped myself, taking a bit of time to think carefully back over the conversation. She asked me not to bring attention to her, I tell the Great Mother. And she asked how to refer to me. I think that was it. Most of the conversation was her answering my questions. And she deigned to answer? Tell me you did not annoy her, child. Yes, she answered. And no, she seemed happy to talk to me. The progenitor glares. I see, she says flatly. And how exactly did she get into my city without my knowledge? She didn't. Ma'am. What? The Great Mother glares. She's not in the city, I repeat. She's not anywhere on the island, as far as I can tell. Then how, and for fuck's sake, why did she contact you, child? I stiffen, and of course she notices. Shit. Here's the moment of truth, I suppose. Well. Okay, so I might not. I wince as pain shoots up my arms, which I assume means get on with it. I'm not entirely Molrosa, I blurt. She says nothing, which I take for the demand to continue that it is. Okay. When I killed someone from the plentiful wood and they damaged my soul, it wasn't. I mean, it isn't just memory loss. I am them. Kind of. Halfway. I'm Molrosa, but I'm also Vita, and Vita is like her. I'm like her. I'm a lich, and Nora spoke with me because she considers us family. Slowly, carefully, I crawl out of my tunnel, hiding my prepared teleportation spell as I slither out into the hollowed-out spot that was once my memory core. The progenitor, who of course has been watching my soul this entire time, expresses an emotion other than anger for the first time, surprise. And then, if only for an instant, a bit of fear. I quickly retreat back into my tunnel to escape the horrid burning of being inside her watcher channeling soul, and the pressure once again tightens around my throat, more of my chitin splintering under her arcane grip. So, she says. You are not my great-granddaughter, but in fact her killer, wearing the still-breathing flesh of your victim. You have attempted to hide your presence from me as you make contact with the oldest and most dangerous person in existence. And all the while, you have been leeching the benefits of my society, of my family, believing you can get away with it all. Is that right? I try to swallow nervously, but find that I'm unable to with my esophagus crushed. I describe it as hoping more than believing, I say. But essentially, yes. The air temperature drops as silence stretches between us. I will offer you a short window, the progenitor says with perfect calm, to convince me not to destroy you. I take a shuddering breath. You should let me live, I say, because if you don't, my sister will never forgive you. The progenitor scoffs derisively. You know very little of your sister if you think Nora will lift a finger for you, she sneers. That old bitch cares for no one but herself. I didn't mean Nora, I say. I meant Terlanica. You really think she'll side with you? The progenitor sneers. I know what you are, parasite. Well, I don't. I snap back at her, kicking my legs indignantly. Why, you think this is fun for me? You think I'm like this on purpose? I'm not. This is completely insane. I barely even know who I am anymore, Grandma. Molrosa is only as dead as Vita is. They both killed each other, and they're both me, and so now both my homes are at war and I have no idea what to do. Again, she responds with silence, but the slight dilations of her eyes indicate to me that it's not fury or expectation that delays her response, but deep thought. Calculations run through her ancient mind, and thankfully her next course of action is not to try to kill me, but to ask another question. Both your homes, you said. And you still consider Talanika your sister. Is the same true of your mother, Galrada? Damn it, I have way too many moms. I don't actually remember Queen Galrada very well, I admit. I'm not sure you haven't seen each other in the last 15 years, the progenitor confirms. Yes. That'd be outside your current brain's memory centers, then. Very interesting. Are you claiming loyalty to Liriope, parasite? I'm not a parasite. I insist. My name is Milrosa, and this is my home. She narrows her eyes at that. You're not lying, she realizes. You consider yourself Milrosa? Not this Vita person? Well. No, I admit. I'm also Vita. It's complicated, okay? The progenitor drops me at that, and I land on my hands and knees, rubbing at the fractures on my neck. I do hope you're not unduly offended by the rough treatment, she states emotionlessly. It's cool, I mutter, committing the damage to memory so I can heal it faster once I have an opportunity. It's not the first time I've been choked half to death by a terrifying old woman. And when you crush a human's throat, they stop being able to breathe. You're an odd one, she notes. I'm not sure why anyone would expect someone in my situation to turn out normal, I mutter. The progenitor barks out a single mote of laughter, climbing back up onto her throne and plopping imperiously down on its stony surface. Tell me Vita's story, child, she orders. If my kin still lives inside you, and she still wishes to be a child of Liriope, I have no inherent objection to hosting a lich of our own. But I must know the woman you were, that I may judge who you have become. Well, I begin, Vita's life was certainly a lot worse than Milrosa's. No part of me is a particularly good storyteller, and every part of me seems to have different ideas on what story I should tell. My struggles in the slums define me as much as everything that came after, but I find it difficult to articulate the things that happened in the time in a way that really conveys why. The fact that I suffered isn't the important bit, not really. Nor is the fact that I rose beyond that suffering, because I'm not sure I really ever did. It's more about what those years did to me, how they shaped my constant expectation of danger of pain. I have to move on from that without being satisfied, though, moving on to discuss Verdantop itself, my time with the hunters, the perception event, being imprisoned, and so on and so forth throughout my life. It's only when I start talking about Liriope itself that the progenitor interrupts me. You were born and raised on the plentiful wood, she notes. How do you think the humans there would feel about Liriope? Oh, well, I mean, they hate you, I say simply. And I doubt seeing any of Liriope would make them hate you less. Most humans would be pretty disturbed by the setup you have here, I think. But you aren't? It's jarring, I admit. It reminds me a lot of my revenants. But the difference between my revenants and your workers is that they are born this way. There's never a person that they were beforehand, they are just like this. Whereas I twist someone into something they didn't used to be, and that's a bit more existentially terrifying. Overall, though, I love this place. I love Liriope. I never imagined somewhere like this could exist, and I think it's beautiful. How much of that is Vita, and how much is Milrosa? The progenitor presses. And how much of Milrosa will die in the coming days? What happens then? I hesitate, because the most likely answer is one that terrifies me to my core. When I possessed Melik, my last body, I didn't really like it, I admit. I didn't really like him. I didn't like his body, I didn't like being a Templar, I didn't like the way he felt about a lot of other people, I didn't like his opinions on a lot of things. We weren't very compatible, and so I subsumed him in a way that I'm not sure I'm likely to do with Milrosa. Here, I like my body, at least more than any other I've had. I like my life, I love my family, and I think my home is beautiful. I look back on my life as Vita with more disgust than I feel about Morosa. Even if the queens here are a bit spoiled and entitled, it's not in a way that hurts anybody. I mean, except for other islands, obviously. But that's... well, I hope I can do something about that. Unfortunately, we do not conquer other territories for fun. Our island is out of resources, out of space, out of food, and out of water. We are simply packed too tightly inside it, and as such we must import the necessities of living to keep our beautiful society alive. Verdantop is a large and lush place, I remind her. I don't think taking resources from it necessitates the annihilation of its current inhabitants. No, but it certainly makes the process much more manageable, the progenitor answers blandly. I am old, child. I have met with many, many societies of humans. As you've said, they hate us. They look at the beauty we've crafted and have nothing to compare it to other than the suffering they insist on inflicting against each other, so they call us evil. They are disgusting, selfish, violent, and they struggle with even basic altruism and empathy. I have fought so many wars with humans that I am simply tired of giving them the opportunity to strike first. Things don't have to be like that, I insist. Surely you've met good humans as well as bad ones. The progenitor sighs. The plentiful wood will be conquered, she insists. I wish I could compromise on this, but it must be done in the next 2 cycles or we will starve. Cycles being a period of 20 years, which I suppose explains the lack of apparent urgency. That's more than enough time to wait for the Vrothizo to do the job for her. But that's okay. I knew that from the moment I became Morosa. So now, I think I know what I have to do. I don't want that any more than you do, I tell her. So I'd like to request you allow me to conquer the plentiful wood in your stead. Let me rule over my own people. Let me show them the glory of Liriope in a way they can't reject. The progenitor sits forward in her chair, her eyes flashing with amusement. Interesting, she muses. You would conquer your own home for our sake? Liriope thrives, I tell her, while Vaka suffers. I would rather see them both thrive, but Vaka won't do that without force. And your loved ones? She presses. Will they not take offense to your sudden passion for imperialism? On the contrary, I answer excitedly, I think they'll be overjoyed to assist me. The progenitor lets out a singular laugh at first, but it's soon followed by another, then another, until finally she's roaring with amusement. Very well, great-granddaughter. She decrees. For the next month, you will be monitored. Your loyalty and mental stability will both be put to the test, to ensure the woman making this promise to me remains the same woman over time. But if the lich in you does not drive you mad, for the next month you will be trained. Not by my granddaughters, but by me. I will make you a proper war queen, child. And when we next pass over your second home, you will make it ours. My urge to grin is so large I can't help but twist my mandibles with anticipation, despite how improper the gesture is. Yes, great mother, I agree, and I am dismissed. I let out a relieved sigh as I exit the audience chamber, my body thrumming with anticipatory energy. It went well. Something in my life actually just went well. I had a conversation with a powerful potential adversary and now they're an ally. What the fuck is my life right now? I emerge fully from my Manta tunnel, stretching myself as best I can within the small cavity of my missing memory core. There's no need to hide any longer. The Great Mother herself endorses my presence. I have a home here. I did it. Everything went better than I could have imagined. Not only do I have a home, a safe home that nothing and no one is trying to attack, but I have a purpose. A goal. Something to work towards that actually makes sense to me. Of course, the question of how to go about conquering and subsequently running a country is a daunting one, to say the least. But I won't be lacking in manpower or support. And I'm sure Penelope will be happy to help, assuming whatever she is now is still interested in making a society of immortal humans. But she should be, that was like her driving objective. I shudder at the memory of my girlfriend's horrible patch job of a soul, a frightening cage crafted out of willpower and self-hate. Can't I help her with that? I'm not sure if I can. Ironically, being a princess means that I'm her superior in pretty much every form of the art except Numa, or I guess what she would call animancy. We're not taught the ability to create anything like Nugas until much later in life. I suppose Penelope is likely my superior in the art of life as well, but I suspect there are now things I know about it that she doesn't. We'll have to compare notes. I'll get to actually compare notes with her. I'll actually understand what she gushes about. It's going to be so great. I just have to woo her again, since Guldra took our relationship from her. But that's fine. It'll be fine. I'll figure that out. I won't lose her. And it is her. Even with all her changes. I'd be a hypocrite to believe anything else. In the meantime, however, it sounds like I have a month to kill while the progenitor figures out if my Vita bits will finish eating my Molrosa bits and end up antagonistic, but since I'm fairly certain all of my bits are quite fond of this place, I don't think there's anything to worry about. Which means... what? I just get a month to relax? How the fuck do people relax? Mal. The panicked voice of my sister cries out as I wander out of the progenitor's mansion. What was all that? Why did the progenitor want to see you? You scared me. Ah. Well. This certainly isn't it. My victory high collapses immediately in the face of my own loving family. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I can be ready. I'm sorry, Tala, I say, opening my arms up for a hug. She rushes in and wraps two of her arms around my neck, causing me to hiss in pain. Ah. Not there. Mal, are you injured? My sister asks, disbelieving. What happened to you? Can we go back to that restaurant? I ask. I'm hungry and I need to heal and... yeah. You're not getting out of explaining this, Tala insists, putting her foot down. I know, I sigh. I know. It's just... I don't want to tell her. I don't want to ruin what we have. Things are going too well right now, and I'm due for something catastrophic. Telling Tala that I'm not really Molrosa anymore means that she might decide that means we're not really family. I know what she told me earlier. I know she said she loved me anyway, but she didn't really know what I meant. I barely know what I meant. I don't even know who I am. It's hard, I summarize lamely. There's more going on than memory loss, Tala concludes, since at this point it's pretty obvious. There has to be, or else great-grandmother wouldn't have done anything to you. What did those savages do, Mal? I rub my neck with one hand as my other three cast a simple healing spell to repair it. Savages, she called them. Is that what she'll think of me? You said that as long as I loved you, we're sisters, I stutter lamely. You mean that? Really? Mal. She starts, looking worried. Tell me you mean it, I beg. Please. Of course I mean it, she says. Come on. Tell me why you were summoned. Because I'm not entirely Molrosa anymore, I managed to blurt out. Not really. My memories didn't just get removed, they got merged. Her eyes bloom with shock and confusion. What? She asks. How? What does that mean? My memory core was hollowed out to make room for another soul, I explain. A completely independent animal construct burrowed inside me and made a home and, well, can we get that out? Tala all but shrieks. I don't want that out. I snap back at her. It's me. We're the same person. I'm Molrosa, okay? I promise. I'm just. Also someone named Vita now. Vita replaced this body's soul and Molrosa's brain still controls it and I'm both of them. Does that make any sense? I mean kind of, but also what? Tala shouts. How does that work? How? How much of you is in there, Mal? All of it. I insist. It's all Molrosa. I love wind-up toys and enchantments and fantasizing about being on the battlefield. I love you, and I have since the moment you were born. But I'm also Alvida. I'm a girl from the plentiful wood that was raised as a starving human but is actually kin to the fucking one below all, and my entire life has been nothing but shitstorm after fucking shitstorm. I love food and sturdy armor and not having to constantly be afraid for once, and I've never even met you until yesterday, but I am so happy to have you in my life, okay? I don't know how to explain this. It's confusing and terrifying, and I don't know if one day I'll wake up and I won't be Melrosa, or maybe I won't be Vita, and part of me will just be dead forever. I don't know who's who or what's what, but at the same time I like this, kind of. I don't know. I don't know who I am, Tala, but today I was someone that was loved instead of reviled, odd instead of disgusted, and joyful instead of afraid. And that's better than half of me used to be. The weight of silence settles dangerously between us as Talanika's eyes flick between 100 different emotions. The thing about having individually adjustable compound eyes is that there's far more room for nuance and detail in expression than humans have, even factoring in the complete lack of facial muscles. Tala's eyes can clearly express multiple emotions without mixing them, or it could mix them to express internal confusion at a complex situation. And while Vita directly feels the girl in front of me tumble through a dozen different emotions, Melrosa sees them all play out on her face, witnessing the terror, the suspicion, the anger, the self-chastisement, the guilt, the love, and the resolve all blossom in sequence. Tala steps forward and gives her sister a hug, and I once again wish I could cry. "Let's head back and get you some dinner," she says. "We'll talk along the way, and I'll get to know that other half of you. Okay?" I squeeze her back, everything in my body fighting to not break down in the middle of the street. How did this all go right again? Are things really going to be okay this time? Okay, I choke out, and we head off to have the best day of my life. Chapter 165. So there I am, trying to fight this giant, four-armed monster with nothing but a pointy stick while my teammate figures out how to give it an ulcer or whatever. I ramble, stuffing more delicious food into my mouth. A Thanatos can eat and talk at the same time without issue, and it's awesome. "You said this thing was twice your size?" Tala gapes disbelievingly, her mandibles loose and slightly hanging. "At least, I confirm. There's no way you beat that thing with nothing but a spear," she insists. "A war queen couldn't do that without magic, let alone a squishy, mean, human." "Well, you're absolutely right," I confirm, ignoring her slip-up. I got my ass whooped. It backhanded me 10 feet through the air, shattered my arm, and nearly squashed my skull into paste. And keep in mind at this point I had no idea about the whole lich thing. I thought I was gonna die for real. "So is that when Princess Penelope saved you?" Tala asks, eyes shining. "She's not. That's not how Vacan nobility works, Tala," I sigh. "She is an immortal ruler of men." My sister argues. "That is everything she needs to be a Thanatos." "I don't think she's immortal, even after all her changes," I muse. "She's certainly going to be, because she is a genius, but even if she figured out purely biological immortality, I doubt she's worked out the kinks yet. I've never heard her talk about information storage density or genetics or any of the steps, really." "Well, maybe she didn't talk to you about it because you used to be too dumb to understand it," Tala smirks. "You haven't exactly been describing yourself as the most efficient glyph in the ward." "Hey, I wasn't stupid," I protest. "Just ignorant. And incapable of reading social cues for some reason." "No wonder you and my sister get along," Tala chuckles. "Okay, so not Princess Penelope saves you, how?" "She doesn't," I answer. "The clear one does." Penta jumps out of my body and possesses the monster. "What?" Tala yelps. "A clear one could die doing that." "I know. But she knew she was going to die anyway if I died, so she possessed it." "But that just delays the inevitable," Tala notes. I grin with my eyes. "Not if she then proceeds to bite her own limbs off." My sister's mandibles fall open in shock. "You're kidding me," Tala gapes. "That's completely insane." Of course she was insane. I laugh. The clear one gained personhood from my and Penelope's memories. But it was also the optimal move. Better to live traumatized than die, right? So the monster bleeds out on the ground and I get to munch on its soul while Penelope heals me back into working condition. Wow, Tala breathes. That's horrifying. Oh man, so much of my life was horrifying. You have no idea. There's a hostile Clear One colony forming inside your country's borders and you're harboring a traitor to that colony inside your own body. How does it possibly get worse from here? Tala, I survived 2 witnessings. Tala's spiked tongue drops down from her mouth. Bullshit. I actually caused one of them. Bullshit. She declares. You're having me on. How would you? Why would you? Well, it wasn't on purpose, I protest. The one below all just isn't a big fan of family, is all. Although the second one was caused on purpose. By a human, I mean, not by me. I tried to stop him, but he threw drugs at my face until I started hallucinating about frogs. Explain, Tala demands. Now. Hold on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. I laugh. I haven't even talked about how I met Vigor the Annihilator yet. That's the savage that defends the walled city with an innate ionization ability, yes? Tala clarifies. The human, I correct her. Vigor doesn't have an innate ability, which humans call talents. She casts spells the hard way, just like us. The human with the ionization ability, sorry, Tala sighs. Are you serious about it not being innate, though? You're telling me a savage is that good without understanding the art? Human, I insist again. And would I lie to you? She huffs out a breath of air, taking a moment to savor a bit of her meal. She ordered some kind of bug grub dish with the intestines of a larva removed and replaced with sweet vegetables. It smells wonderful, although I'm quite fond of what she ordered for me as well, a platter of nearly a dozen individually cooked meats, fruits, eggs, grains, and condiments designed to be mixed and matched differently with each bite to maximize variety. It's a very strange meal to me, since Vita would have just gobbled it down all at once without caring about flavor, but I vaguely remember why I loved it so much as Melrosa and try to imitate that. It's very interesting. I'm not used to caring about flavor, really, since that was always a luxury. Now I feel like I'm getting a full-course introduction into the idea that how things taste is a lot more beautiful and complicated than I ever let myself give it credit for. Melrosa wouldn't lie to me, Tala sighs. And you're still Melrosa. So yeah, I believe you. It's just a lot to take in, you know? I can't deny we underestimated the humans, though. I mean, that's why you're in this mess. It's not all bad, I say quietly. I like the perspective. I get to enjoy things for the first time again. And? Yeah, our culture totally downplays how much like us humans are. Probably so we don't feel as bad for how many of them that we kill. Should we feel bad? Tala presses. You're not exactly challenging the idea that they're aggressive, illogical, warmongering brutes, you're just demonstrating that they're good at it. I mean, yeah, humans are all those things, I agree. But also, we're the ones that went after them to take their land and slaughter them by the millions. So, doesn't that make us worse? Tala squints at me for a bit. I think you're wrong, she eventually declares. And if you give me a bit, I'm sure I'll figure out a reason why you're wrong. I laugh. Sure, take your time. I can go back to talking about how things went with Penta, if you want. Actually, on the subject of clear ones, what are you gonna tell Vigor? Tala asks. I mean actually telling them everything seems like an unnecessary pain, so I'll probably just let them take the memories for themselves, I admit, scratching my neck sheepishly. Tala snorts, her eyes glittering with amusement. Geez, you're such a deviant, Mal, she teases. You do know it's super obvious when they're walking around as you, right? I'm not. I mean, it's not gonna be like that anymore, I mutter, looking away with embarrassment. I already told them that. I just don't mind them taking the memories, is all. It's more convenient. Tala muses. I'm not gonna lie, sis, Your loss of bodily autonomy fetish has always freaked me out a little, but I'm not sure how to feel about the realization that it's no longer a thing. It's comforting to see the ways you're still you, but it's spooky to see all the ways you kind of aren't. You are not one to judge about sexual preferences, Tala, I grumble at her. Whoa, I'm not judging, no one is judging. Tala insists hastily, holding up her palms in surrender. It's funny how that gesture exists in both cultures. We don't have to talk about me, this is about you. So even though Vida also got possessed on a semi-regular basis, you're no longer into it. Great. So, what are you into now? Nothing, I guess. Nothing? She asks, shoveling another bite of food into her mouth. How does that work? I don't like or want to have sex, I mutter uncomfortably. Even though you still have memories of having it and enjoying it, my sister clarifies. Yep, pretty much, I admit. It's something I have strong feelings about, so, I cut myself off, suppressing a shudder. It's something Vida has strong feelings about, so it automatically overrides however Melrosa felt. The lich is stronger. I won't make it out of this as even as I wish I could be. Yeah, I finish lamely. Well, that sucks, Tala says bluntly. It's certainly gonna be uncomfortable for you in 5 years. I'm a lich now, I shrug. I have a lot more options for immortality than giving birth to myself. Oh, Tala answers stiltedly. Right. I look at my sister carefully. Really look at her, using the eye that becomes more and more my one and only true self by the hour. Talanika's soul has the same artificial design as all Thanatos, crafted with a purpose, complexity, and direction that does not exist in humans. In some ways, it makes her more beautiful. Her soul is a literal work of art. In other ways, however, it makes her seem stagnant. She's so similar to the dozens of other queens in the city, a manufactured essence to the design which makes her soul a lot less raw, a lot less of a pure representation of who she is. The part of her that is person rather than function is much smaller than in a human soul, though I suppose despite how overshadowed it is by the other parts it's no less beautiful than them. Tala is purple clouds and calm melodies, occasionally screeching with anxious energy but holding fast to her desire to seem controlled and composed for a sister that is clearly losing it a little. She feels responsible for me, and though she's genuinely terrified of my situation, she's doing everything in her power to keep an open mind for my sake. She's wonderful. Have you looked at my soul, Tala? I ask her. Yeah, she confirms. It's just weird and empty. Not anymore, I say. I was hiding before. Take another look. She seems a bit concerned at that, but she starts casting, and soon is staring directly at me. Her eyes go wide, and I wriggle a tentacle in greeting. Hey, Tala, I say quietly. What the fuck, she breathes. Oh, this is. You are. Very pretty, Mal. Or I guess Vida? Either is fine, I shrug. I've always liked it when you call me Mal. Is this even a real color? She mutters to herself. Progenitor, this is. Goodness. I can't blush, but if I could then my cheeks would be burning red. People being in awe over my soul self always gets to me. I finish off the last of my food, making sure the plate is clean as Tala silently fawns over me. So, what's next? I ask awkwardly. Did you have other plans for the day, or? Huh? Tala asks, jolting slightly as she peels her eyes away from my true self. Oh, gosh, I mean, I pretty much have my whole day blocked off for you if you wanna hang out. This was supposed to be like a thing to help you feel better, it just hasn't quite gone as expected, ha ha. I'd imagine not, no, I chuckle. Well, I'd love to spend the day with you if you have any other ideas of stuff to do. We could play detonation? Tala suggests. Or ho-op-ball. I think I remember ho-op-ball, but what's detonation again? Wait, what? Tala yelps, jumping to her feet. You don't remember detonation? You're the one who taught me to play detonation. Okay, we're doing that, come on. To the Numa practice grounds. Okay, let's. Whoa. Tala jumps out of her seat and physically scoops me up by the armpits, her other two hands weaving a flight spell that rockets us through the air before we're even down to the first story of the building. Whoa. I yelp. Whoa 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 whoa. Tala, what are you doing? Come on, Mal. My sister whoops as we blast out of the restaurant and into the open cavernous air of Liriope. Don't tell me you forgot how to fly, too. I didn't forget. I snap. Oh, fuck, we're really high. Did I tell you about the time I fought a teleporter who tried to kill me by doing this? Cast the spell, you dofuse. Tala insists. I do, hastily forming my own art to control my path through the air. Flying magic is extremely rare back on Verdantop, but here every Thanatos learns it from a young age. It was really funny, actually. The first time she cast it on me I resisted the spell, but that just meant all of my stuff got teleported a couple thousand feet in the sky and I was left fighting her cold ass naked. When I actually got teleported into the sky, I was giving everyone who looked up quite a show. Okay, that's hilarious. But more importantly, focus. You're not falling, Mal. You've done this before, but you're also flying for the first time, right? You're not going to want to miss it. My sister lets me go and I hang in the air, a twist of will being the only thing between myself and whatever direction I want to travel. The radiant, burning glow of the god's avarice hangs above us, illuminating the lush, beautiful city of Liriope from on high. The towering white spires of the opulent mansions, the twisting green vines cultivated to perfection, the fountains and parks maintained every day and every night into an impossible fantasy wonderland. All of it is dwarfed before my sister and I, rising up beyond it all. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I do not need to pull on the wretched meat in my legs to get from place to place. I do not even need to twitch my wings if I don't wish to. Nothing stands between me and my destination but willpower. This right here, is how I was always meant to move. You remember the way? Tala asks. I look at her and signal assent. I do. This is my city. Then lead on, little sis, Tala offers happily, and with a bubbling cry of joy I can't possibly contain, I do exactly that. I tuck my arms and wings close to my body and just let myself move, zipping and spiraling through the sky as giggles escape from my sides. I want to always be doing this. I want to never walk again. Slow down, Mal. My sister yelps, rushing forwards to catch up with me. Wings out, let yourself control your direction through gliding. You'll exhaust yourself constantly relying on mana thrust like that. Let yourself take a break from channeling. I just laugh even harder. Exhaust myself from channeling? Why would I do that? I am my mana, I don't have to fight it to get it to do what I want. Make me. I call out to her, stretching my tongue out from between my mandibles to taunt her. She spends a moment being stunned and mildly scandalized before letting out a laugh of her own and launching after me, the two of us dancing through the skies and pointedly ignoring the raptured looks from the workers below. I feel my training and experience as Morosa tell me I am doing it wrong, insisting that Tala is right and I need to be guiding my direction with my wings and controlled bursts of thrust. But my instincts as Vita, as a creature more than her flesh, sing a very different story. This could hardly be any better. Except, perhaps if I modified the motion dart to be better accommodated for my limitless capacity to channel myself, I could make things a bit smoother. Just thinking about it causes more giggles to bubble up from my lungs, which is distracting enough that Tala manages to tackle me in midair, sending both of us briefly sprawling before I exert enough force to even us out. My sister, panting with exhaustion, folds in her wings and allows me to carry her as she hangs on my shoulders, beaming smugly at me as we laugh alongside one another. Wow, she chuckles. It's been ages since we've done something like that. Well, big sis, when a princess gets older she is supposed to start acting more mature, I snicker. So logically, if a princess gets younger. Come on, Talia laughs, smacking my arm and pointing to our destination. "We're almost there. I'll barely be able to play if we keep flying this hard. I'll barely be able to play if you don't teach me what the rules are," I remind her, though I do carry her all the way to the Numa practice grounds. It's a fairly simple building, staffed by a handful of men whose main job is to tend to the animals and cart said animals to the butchers when they die from having their souls taken out or catastrophically destroyed. I wonder which of the two we'll be doing today, though my question is quickly answered when I set Tala down and she quickly jogs over to murder a small critter from the pens. "Okay," Tala announces as she cups the dead soul in two hands. "You got anima and mana sight on?" "Always, yes," I confirm. She tilts her head. "What, like?" "Always, always. My soul is an eye," I point out. "Oh. Right. Okay, so. Detonation. The basic premise of the game is to destroy the other player's artwork while crafting one of your own. Seems simple enough, but why would we need a soul for that?" I ask. "Because the artwork is a channeled spell," Tala explains. "And we may only alter it through manipulating its structure directly." Tala takes the soul and casts a few quick Numa spells, shattering it into dust. Rather than let the soul dust dissipate or use it as food for another soul, however, she starts crafting with it, making a tube-shaped structure of anima that very distinctly is not a soul anymore. I watch, utterly stunned, as the half of me that considers this normal and obvious does its best to tame the half of me that finds this revolutionary. Anima is just a substance. It's the mana universe's equivalent of matter, and though it is the fundamental building block of the soul, there is absolutely nothing that prevents it from only being a substance that comprises souls. It can do so much more than that. Or at least it could, if the Miss Watcher didn't slurp up any loose anima that isn't currently growing inside someone. So, normally you can only manipulate the channeled mana inside your own body and soul, Tala continues, handing me half of the anima tunnel. But if we use this to make a sort of link between our souls, we can both channel and manipulate the same set of mana. The art we craft has to have no impact on the game and a consumptive property below 1%. A basic ekbrasis loop that converts mana into mana is the most popular structure, but you can go wild with whatever silly useless spells you can think of to fit the criteria. But of course, your attention has to be split between crafting your spell in such a way that I can't disrupt it, and disrupting my spell to make it detonate. Oh, and obviously you need to keep your mana constructs in the tube so they don't blow up inside your body. Won't the one below all reach up and eat our soul tube at some point? I ask. Well, yes, and that's when the game ends. You princesses playing detonation? A gruff female voice asks. A queen's voice, to be exact, since I've felt two of them heading our way for a while now. I turn to face them and immediately my eyes light up into a joyful expression. Queen Vinatila. I greet her happily. And Naga, too. Nice to see you both. Nagatilka, my former combat instructor, gives me a tired-looking wave as she approaches alongside her partner, the absolutely massive Queen Vinatila. A full head and a half taller than most other queens, Vinatila designed her body for weight and strength, like one of the heavy soldier designs from our history that are no longer used. She would often assist Naga with handling Tala and my martial training, usually by kicking our asses 2-on-1. Vina is a bit of an odd one out since queens are, on average, stronger than humans, but our culture doesn't pride physical capability very much. Why would it, when magic is so much more effective? Even with Naga and Vina training us to be warriors, hardly any of that time was spent using weapons, and none of it was spent learning hand-to-hand fighting, the reasoning being that if we have a hand free, we should be casting a spell, not punching anybody. I can't deny the logic there, but I still feel as though it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. I'm definitely glad I learned to use a spear. Even Vinatila seems to just enjoy the aesthetic of having a huge, strong body more than actually using that strength as a replacement for magical might. Of course, Naga also seems to quite enjoy the aesthetic of Vina having a huge, strong body, so maybe that's all there is to it. I hope you're recovering well, Milrosa, Queen Nagartilka says, twisting her eyes into an apologetic expression. Learning some games for the first time again, then? Yep, I just finished being taught the rules, I confirm. It seems pretty fun, except for the part where I can't play it. A confused pause occurs where the three other women mentally catch up with what I just said. Sure you can. Tala insists. Just give it a try. I shrug, figuring that's probably the fastest way to explain anyway. Tala shows me how to get the anima tunnel set properly and begins to manipulate the watcher mana inside. I stick a hand directly into the tunnel, pump my mana into it, and let a crackling roar ring out through the practice grounds as the two mana types annihilate each other. I can't play this, I repeat, thoroughly enjoying the expression on my stunned sister's face. The reactions from Naga and Veena might be a bit more problematic, though. What the fuck did I just witness? Veena asks, utterly baffled. What kind of art did that? Did you see her craft anything, Naga? I did not, my former teacher says, clearly concerned. Yeah, I love you two very much, but you sort of miss something big when you check my soul, I tell them. The progenitor knows about it, so don't worry too much, but yeah. The two of them clearly aren't happy with my non-explanation. But the progenitor is cool with it as a statement that holds quite a bit of weight here in Liriope. Still, it doesn't stop Veena from blurting out quite the swear when she casts a pneumocite spell. Mother's ass girl. Veena declares, squinting as she casts a soulsight spell. What is in your memory core? I am, technically. Anyway, Tala, I can't actually channel the one below all's mana anymore. I use my own. Your own? She repeats. My own, I confirm, raising a hand and flicking my fingers to cast a light spell in it. It still works, it's still mana, but it's fundamentally incompatible with the mana in the atmosphere. They annihilate each other on contact. How do you just keep getting weirder, sis? Tala groans. Natural talent. Tala lets out an exasperated noise as the two queens continue staring worriedly at my soul. What sort of spell could have possibly done this to you? Naga asks. That's a conversation I've already had way too many times today, I hedge. Can't we just play a different game? Hoopball doesn't require any joint artistry, it's just spells, spells, spells. I wanted to do joint artistry with you, Tala says despondently. It's kind of scary that you can't. It's the art, Mal. I can let you use my mana, I tell her, shrugging sheepishly. And we could work on something cooperatively sometime. But in a competition where you are using my mana, I'd have a stupidly unfair advantage. Well, ignoring all that insane shit you're talking about, Veena butts in, what the fuck are you doing with your shoulders, child? That up and down thing. It looks uncomfortable. Why exactly are we ignoring the insane shit she's talking about? Naga counters. I very much want to focus on what the princess is talking about. Well, I don't. I insist forcefully. I'll tell you later, okay? But today, Tala and I are hanging out and having fun. Right, Tala? Yeah, she sighs, a bit despondently. Though if you want to play hoopball, we're probably going to want to invite them. It's way less fun with only two people. I shoot a questioning glance at Naga and Veena to request their answer. I am trying to respect your privacy, Milrosa, but are you sure you're not in danger or anything? Naga asks. Is it safe for us to play around if your ability to interact with mana is acting up somehow? That looked an awful lot like the unknown ekbrasis art the savage you killed was using. It's not an ekbrasis art and it's perfectly safe, I sigh. I'm fine, Naga, I promise. The lost memories suck and there are some weird bits right now, but overall I'm doing better than ever. Or at least half of me is. Alright, well. If you're sure, Naga nods. Do you have any objections, honey? Nah, Veena grunts happily. Just don't think we'll go easy on you, princesses. You know I'm not good at holding back. Wait, are you two going to be on the same team? Tala protests. we'll get destroyed. Let's give it a shot anyway. I encourage her, jabbing her in the side with an elbow. We can always change teams after the first game or two. Fine. Tala groans. It figures you don't forget your thick-headed competitiveness. Half of me is competitive, I correct. The other half just wants a rematch against some war queens. Just try not to merge with any of them, Tala counters dryly. You two are not making it easy to not ask questions, Naga says, squinting with irritation. Come on, let's go to the courts, Tala sighs, and once again we are flying fuck yes. All thrust, all power. By my will I move through the sky and it is glorious. Twirls and spins and loops, I am free. Free of the ground. That is not how I taught you to fly, girl. Naga barks at me. Don't care. I laugh back. Too much fun. Naga shouts a few other impudent reprimands, which I ignore to her mounting irritation and Queen Vanatila's mounting amusement. Unfortunately, we're very quickly at the Ho-Up-Ball courts, and it's time to land and start strategizing for the game. Ho-Up-Ball is exceptionally simple. There are a set number of balls, usually 1 or 2, and each team has one hoop, a thin but wide ring of grown chitin or worked wood about 3 feet in diameter. Each team starts with a certain number of points, and if a ball passes through your hoop, you lose a point. When you're out of points, your team loses the game. What makes the rules so deceptively simple is the fact that there are very few other rules at all. A team's hoop is not stationary and is usually carried around at all times by one of the teammates, though naturally, you aren't allowed to just sandwich the hoop between 2 players to make it impossible to score on. Magic is almost universally allowed as long as it's not dangerous enough to cause serious injury. You can use motion darts on your hoop, the ball, and even the field itself. You can flashlight in the other team's eyes with wave arts, summon barriers of ice with absence arts, and even power up your own body with life arts. Pretty much the only things you can't directly cast on are the other team's players and the other team's hoop. Almost everything else is fair game, barring obvious unfun exploits. You want offense or defense, Mal? Tala asks me when we land. With 2-player teams, it's generally best for one to focus on the allied hoop while the other scores goals, though there's nothing preventing those roles from being mixed or traded. Offense, I answer immediately. Yeah, I thought you would, she sighs. You know I'm not up to holding off Queen Vanatila, right? Then I'll just have to keep control of the ball, I chuckle. Actually, do you wanna do a double offense strategy? Dang it, Mal, you basically died and you're still reckless. Hey, this isn't reckless, I protest. It's a game, there aren't even any real stakes. Reckless would be like the time I wandered off into the forest alone after one of my other sisters died. Tala stiffens at that, surprise and concern jolting her into silence. I'm not really sure what else to say on the topic, though, so I turn my focus to the other team as she charges up at her ability to live on our hoop. I stare at them, and I stare into them, focusing my attention on their souls. Having only a couple days to get used to reading a Thanatos souls, more like a couple hours, really, since I was hiding for most of it, has not quite been enough to get quick, reliable reads on them. It's going to be tough to predict them in combat, but I suppose there's no better way to learn than by doing. While I watch them I start flushing my body and soul with mana, preparing a handful of soul shards to get my strategy ready. You ready to lose, princesses? Veena calls out to us as Naga readies their team's hoop. Yep. Tala calls back. She means we're going to kick your butts. I call after her. What tactical advantage do you expect to gain from that? Naga asks incredulously. That's not what. Oh, wow, I'm on the other side of this for once. We're ready, Tala sighs. Let's just go. Alright. Veena roars. Then it's time. For Ho-Up-Ball. My sister and I rush forward as one, and the magic starts to fly. Tope continued.